when you come from the streets to like growing up how we grew up, trust is very important, but it's not easily doled out. How did you get to a place where you're like, okay, I trust that they're gonna fucking execute what I put?
I just got there.
You just got
like 15 minutes ago.
Young, what up, brother?
What's happening with it, brother?
Good to see you, brother.
Come on, likewise.
How you been?
Oh man, I ain't doing no complaining, man. I ain't had a bad day in my life, brother. Like for me, it's just I take it all in stride, man. I'm excited. New book, a lot of new ventures.
Adversity for Sale. What made you decide to do it?
I just feel like when you write songs, there's only so much you can say. But writing this book was very therapeutic for me, and it was a great chance for me to deal with a lot of my traumas, and just a great chance for me kind of to work through some things that I had reservations about because I felt like, they were behind me, but they really wasn't.
Your granny raised you?
My grandmother raised me. Now, that's the one person I could say loved me unconditionally. But when she passed, that was...
How old were you?
Maybe like about 16, 17. And the crazy thing is she never got a chance to see none of this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, she just knew I was hustling on her front porch, and everything that she told me that I was gonna go to jail for ended up changing my life, right? And she never got a chance to see it. But that's the only place I could say I actually felt like safe.
Was it your granny?
My granny.
And your mom and dad, why didn't you have a relationship with both of them?
My dad was in the service, so I lived in Japan, I lived in Hawaii, I lived in all these places. And I had, just this amazing life. And then my parents got a divorce. So now I got to move back to the hood. I just left the beaches, eat sushi. Like I had a whole nother life. So I was upset with my dad about that. And then my mom, she took a lot of her frustration out on me.
She was mad at your dad.
Yeah,
but he wasn't there.
We look alike.
Yeah, he wasn't there.
Yeah, he wasn't there. And then that made, me become a man at a very young age. I probably left my mom's house when I was 14. And when I left and went to live with my grandmother didn't really she wasn't on top of me. So I was able to get away with a lot.
Of course.
And the love that I felt and where I felt like I was significant at was in the streets. My cousins were really deep in the game. Like they was ahead of their time when it came to that. And these guys were like the fly guys that came through. They had the cars, they had the girls. Like they were the first entrepreneurs that I ever saw. And I was so just infatuated and fascinated by how they were living. If I'm honest, like I wanted them to accept me because I was like little cuz, right?
Of course.
A lot of what I was doing was trying to get them to acknowledge me because at the time I didn't feel like I was enough. I'm coming from overseas, I'm coming back to the States, so I'm green to a lot of things. And then I'm here with my cousins and they've been living street life all their life. And a lot of the time that I was trying to get into what they was getting into, they were manipulating me. I was the scapegoat, the crash dummy, if you will. Cuz, come get this, and I go get it, this is cuz, I got it. And I go do this, cuz, and I do that, and go sell this when I go out of town, and I sell it, and I bring them all the money back, and they give me $100, and it's like $15,000, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't know no better. I'm just like, this is what it's about, and my loyalty got me in a lot of trouble. And I remember I first finally got my money, like, really right. I was going to make this play with my older cousin. He's like, these are my people. And I was like, well, so let me bring my strap. He's like, no, you good. And I was like, but this big cuz, you trust him. Like, all right, cool. We meet these guys and then a semi-trailer truck. I give him the money. Then he give me this laundry bag, right? And the laundry bag has the work in it, but it's covered in a blanket. So when I peel it off and I look at it, it's duct tape, everything looks fine. So I'm like, this is my cousin. I leave him, I get back to the house. Me and my man started to cut them shits open. And it's sheetrock. Like I never seen no shit like this. But this is all my money. Like I'm broke. You know what I'm saying? I'm broke.
That's everything.
I was more hurt than anything because I felt like I had so much respect and admiration for him.
But do you think he knew?
1,000%.
So he was in on it?
Yes.
So he crossed you?
Yes. So along with the trust issues I had before, now I know I can't even trust the people I respect. So that turned me into a whole nother animal because at first, I wasn't really like thugging. I was just hustling. Now I'm thugging.
What's the difference between hustling and thugging?
Hustling is minding your business, getting to your money. You know what I'm saying? Something come up, you figure out a diplomatic way to deal with it. And thugging is like, you play with me, we gonna spend 2-3 blocks on it.
Of course.
So now I'm in that space. Before I was willing to work out anything diplomatically. Now I'm into violence. I'm in the gang culture. I'm into all these things that don't go along with the money.
Yeah, which actually messed the money up.
Oh, 1,000%.
Yeah, messed the money up.
Because now these are the type of people that I'm attracting, and now it's different. And I talk about that a lot in the book. It's just navigating that.
There are a lot of rappers who I think are incredible. I think rappers are some of the greatest writers to ever live on the face of the earth.
That's true.
I think one day y'all will get credited that way. I was never a thug, but I hustled.
Right.
My dad was like, ain't no thugging.
Right.
Hustling, because that's how I grew up. So I like the hustling side of rap, like the real, and it was like when Jay said it, like, I'm just a hustler disguised as a rapper. In fact, you can't fit this hustle inside of a rapper. That line defines him and you to me too. So when you started rapping, was it like, I'm destined, I want to be a rapper? Or was you like, oh, this is a new hustle?
I started doing music because I was going down to Florida and I was hustling with some guys down there in Fort Lauderdale. They had a record label. And I went to Black Spring Break with them in Daytona, and I just saw how they did it. They had all their cars, the Winnebagos with all their T-shirts and the people. And I'm just like, so I left from them, went back and bust my bag and went and bought a studio. And then I told my man, we got to find some artists. So we went out and found the guys in the neighborhood that said they can rap. Right? So we put all our money into them, and one of them get locked up for murder. The other one get in the shootout. He's gone for a while. And the other one just went to ride. So now we sitting in the studio and I don't spend all this money.
You was like, I'm going to be Baby.
I want to be Baby, yeah.
I'm not going to be Lil Wayne, I'm going to be Baby.
Yep, I want to be Baby. And my man wanted to be Slim.
Got it.
Right, and that was the goal, right? And now we get in here and we got all this studio equipment and no artists. And I'm like, shit, I got to do this shit. I didn't want to. And it took me a while. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't like an instant thing. It took me a while to understand, how to put my words in the song form.
And structure. Who taught? Did somebody teach you how to do that?
No, but that's why.
Like to get the hook, the bridge, all that stuff.
I just did what I felt, but that's where the ad-libs came from. Because there was a lot of spaces between my words. That's how I was writing. I was choppy.
Yeah.
I was and then it's like a whole half a bar.
Yeah.
So that's when I started putting the years and all that stuff in there, because it was just like it sounded like it wasn't done. I taught myself how to do that just through trial and error, right?
That's hustling, bro.
Yeah, that's hustling. And then it didn't pay off. We put millions of dollars in it, you know what I'm saying? And then it was Streets is Watching with DJ Drama. I saw it happening. And then when I
How did you hook up with Drama?
Coach K.
Okay.
Streets is Watching came out first, and it got real good traction. I think I pressed up 200,000, gave them all away. And then Trap or Die came, and I pressed up about 500,000 copies. But then I put a DVD with it, with all the footage that I had, because I felt like people didn't know what I looked like. And that's when it really that's when it was cemented.
Took off.
But mind you, I'm still hustling.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm still...
Did you feel you were a rapper yet? Or you like, I'm a hustler making some music?
Nah, I feel like I was a hustler making music. The thing that happened that really threw me off, Tip came to the studio one day, and this was like when me and him first started getting cool, and I was hustling out of Patchwork. Like, that was my trap, because I would go there, I would get studio time, then I just had, because it was gated, like here. So I could have my guys pull in the gate, do my thing, and then send them out. So Tip come over there one day, and I'm working in the B room. I probably got about $1.8, $2 million in the booth. And he come in there, because that's when we count the money and whatever. And he's just like, yo, let me holler at you. You know how Tip is. Let me have a word with you. You know what I'm saying? So he pulled me in the bathroom. He walk and look under all the stalls. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? You know what I mean? And he tells me, he say, hey, man, he said, you're really talented, bro. I think you're going to be big. But he said, you can't do what you're doing and still try to do music. First, I thought he was trying to trick me, right? Because I thought that's what he was doing too. So I'm like, oh, he trying to cut me out my money so they, because I'm booming right now. I'm doing better in the streets than I am in music, for sure.
Yeah.
And he was just like, no, you can't do both. And I went home and I thought about it. And I had the Nextel chirp phones. And I'll never forget, man, I woke up and I just threw the phone out. And people still owe me money in the streets and everything. And I just left it behind, because I'm like, if I go back and try to get the money, I'm gonna get caught back up in this.
Of course.
That was the scariest time of my whole life, bro.
Because you're like, I'm putting everything into this.
Yeah, and it's just like, I wasn't hot, and I wasn't the guy, and I didn't know if it was gonna work. For a long time after that, I used to wake up in a lot of cold sweats, because I don't know why in my mind I just pictured myself going back to make one more play and getting caught.
Of course.
And it was like this nightmare. Yeah, it was like the nightmare I had. I used to be so paranoid, bro, and I was drinking and smoking, and it was a bad time to be Jay.
This is before the first album.
Yeah, this was before the first album. Yep. Everything that I knew that I had, that I could depend on to take care of myself and my family, I let it go. And then I'm walking into this other world that I quite don't understand. And I really don't got the support system that I'm seeing other people have.
And you don't trust nobody.
And I don't trust nobody. And I think that was a lot of how a lot of my relationships got crossed up, because you only had to do, I'm coming from the street, you only had to do one thing for me to be like, oh, I'm good on this nigga.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, or either I got
half a thing. Right. It could be a half a thing.
Or I got a pressure. It's one of the two. So it's just like, I just, and even now, you know, I see people I used to know, and I'd be like, what up? They be like, I'd be like, no, man, it ain't even like that no more, bro. Like,
I
give me a hug, man.
You know what I moved on.
Right, give me a hug, man. You good?
You always doing the multitasking ever since you came out. How you balance that shit? Like,
I mean, I think for the most part is who I am. You know, I grew up hustling, so it's almost like you have to multitask, right? Because everybody don't know how to do what it is that you do, but you got to at least get it to where it needs to be, and then you can give them instructions from there. But if I was just doing one thing at a time, I think I would burn out fast.
And my grandmother, she would always say, if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself.
Yeah.
But you just said the opposite of that, which I agree with your thinking, because the thinking that you had is the only way to really build something. In business, you know, there's a word called scale.
Yep.
You can't scale yourself. It's only one Jeezy.
Right.
So you got to have other people in your team.
Right.
So how did you get to that thinking like, shit, I got to delegate and let other people do stuff?
I understood how to make the records, right? And I understood how to market in the beginning, passing out mixtapes and stuff like that. When you talking about you're a project in and you're double platinum, it's a different type of marketing, right? So now I got to go get a partner. And that's where like the whole Def Jam thing came. Now they got a whole team of people that does marketing, right? So all I got to do is go to them and say, hey, this is my vision. This is what I see. This is how I want it to look. This is how I want it to feel. But then just trust that they know how to execute.
When you come from the streets to like growing up how we grew up, trust is very important, but it's not easily doled out. As you know, we don't trust that easy.
Oh, no.
How did you get to a place where you're like, okay, I trust that they're going to fucking execute what I put?
I just got there.
You just got there?
Like 15 minutes ago. I'll be the first to admit I had trust issues.
We all do.
Yeah, I had serious ones though, because it was life and death. You know, you could be with somebody and you know, who was hanging with people that, you know, they end up killing the person they was hanging with. And that was like the norm. So now I just learned how to be, you know, I would say manipulative in a way, just to get what I needed. But I never trusted. So I never really had people around that I trusted. And when it went on to the music, I started to understand quickly, like, this is worse, because where I come from, you know, it's you know, death or the penitentiary. But with these people in the music industry, they're cutthroat anyway. Like, it's just the nature of the game.
Sure.
But then when I started to understand about having business partners is, you gotta trust that they're gonna at least do what they're supposed to do. Like, if you're telling me that you're gonna be able to market this on a scale that I can't, I'm gonna believe that you can do that. Now, if you show me you can't, now I gotta make some other decisions.
Totally.
Right? But then you gotta also listen to what I'm saying, because I'm telling you that this is the way I did it. I went out and pressed up 200,000-300,000 CDs and gave them away. But then you're gonna tell me that you don't wanna do that because it costs too much money and I gotta go to you. But like, what does it matter? It's marketing, right? And I've seen it work before. So now I wanna do this project and I wanna press up 500,000 CDs. And then in their mind, they're like, why would we press up 500,000 CDs to give away? Now, even Def Jam, I've seen them fight this tooth and nail, and then for it to work for me again, going into Thug Motivation, when we passed out all those Trapper Dies, I watched that label start pressing up CDs for their other artists to give away because my method worked, right? So now this is a part of their marketing ploy.
They took your idea and implemented it across the board.
Because I'm doing it from a street level, I'm going straight to consumer, and I'm like, if I give them this and they like it, it's like I'm going back to my hustling mentality. It's like coming on the block and
sample the product.
Right. You know what I'm saying? And now they're coming back. And that's what I was doing. But I'm gonna be honest, like, shout out to Shakir Stewart, shout out to L.A. Reid. I got in a place with those guys where I at least trusted their judgment, right? But as far as the music industry and the label is concerned, I never had trust like that.
And did you ever look back, not regret it, but did it ever cost you where you're like, because I didn't trust that person or these people, I lost a relationship or I lost money
I'm gonna tell you something crazy.
If I trusted that person, it would have worked out better.
I'm gonna tell you something crazy, bro. And like, this is like me being 1,000% honest. Like, I met Braun like in the beginning. I met Braun playing cards with Hove, and he was cool, but I was still struck in my street mentality. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't want to get close to nobody. All these guys that I had a rapport with, I didn't double down on the relationship because I just felt like I was on the island by myself. Nobody understood me. They would never understand. I'm going through this, they ain't going through that. This other half of my life, I've been trying to mend a lot of those relationships that I lost because I didn't understand the power of relationships.
Was something happen or was it therapy?
It's when a lot of the people that really didn't really have good intentions started to leave, and then these quality people started coming in my life, right? But I didn't know how to build with them. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know how to connect with them. Like, I was very elusive. It's like, I don't want to get too close. I don't know what's going to happen. And then it's also like with my kids, I just started to really notice I'm not present here. And when I started to like peel back the layers and start dealing with it, it was intense.
Of course.
Now you're feeling all this. It's like having a dam, and then all of a sudden you just unblock it, and all this stuff got to run through.
Talk to me about the definition of real, right? Real gets thrown around a lot.
Right.
To you then and now, because obviously you've grown and changed.
So real then was taking everybody from your neighborhood and taking care of them and trying to take them on this amazing journey that you're going on and dealing with all their trauma and all their bad habits and all the things that affected them in real time.
And if you leave one of them behind, you're not real.
You're not real. You got to think, I had my whole neighborhood living in my first mansion. Like, it was like 30 of us in there.
But was you giving everybody jobs or they was just hanging?
But that's the thing. All you guys couldn't come on the court with Bron. But you guys figured out ways between you and Rich and everybody. Y'all figured out a way to fit in, to add value to what he's doing, and so he could still go do what he was doing. Nobody was adding value.
Got it.
It was bringing more guns and weed. I ain't need
girls.
I'm good, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Nobody's bringing nothing that's adding value. It's only making the situation more dangerous, right?
Of course.
Then a lot of bad things just started happening, and nobody could help, right? You know, the Fed started seizing my accounts. You know what I'm saying? Nobody could help. Now the bills is coming.
Yeah.
I can't take care of everybody like I used to. Like, you know what I mean? And back then, I was trying to live for other people. Now, I'm living for what's right, and that's my evolution.
Yes.
Because if I evolve, everything around me evolves. And the difference between then and now is that then I didn't think I was enough, right? Now, I know better than that. And I've gave myself permission to evolve. I don't have to live for anybody else anymore.
Yeah.
Because when I was living for people, I was dying.
You was dying, you was killing
I was dying.
You've evolved as a businessman, as an artist, as a person. When you first came out, the Snowman, you obviously marketed and you was known as the Snowman, but you learned a valuable lesson through that too about, you didn't trademark the Snowman, right?
I did not. Shout out to Greg Street, he gonna kill me. We was in Def Jam, I never forget, and Shauna Ayers and me and Peck Austin was sitting there. They're like, you need a symbol for your album. And I had the Snowman chain on. And then it was like, let's do the Snowman chain. I was like, yeah, let's do it. It was my thing. And then two things happened. Maybe 8 months later, I'm rolling through Harlem, and you know how they had the stores like on 150, whatever. You see all the stores, all of them had different renditions of the Snowman that wasn't mine, right?
But it was based off of what you
Based on my Snowman. So now you got Snowmans with AKs, bandanas. I'm just like, what the hell's going on? Jay called me, and he's like, yo, I'm going to Magic show in Vegas. You should come. Magic is like a fashion convention, like a clothing convention.
Yep.
All right, cool. So me and Jay walking through the Magic exhibit, and people are running up to me like, Jeezy, thank you, dog. You the realest. And I'm like, you know what I mean? And like, this happens like 10 times. And Jay like, yo, what's going on? And this guy comes up, he goes, man, Jeezy, man, we love you, bro. Thank you for helping everybody eat, letting everybody eat. And I'm like, eat all what? And he's like, yo, the Snowman shirts. He said, we got them in bulk. Everybody got them here. Like, you know what I mean? To the ceiling. He looks at me, Jay, he goes, you trademarked that? I ain't, you know what I'm saying? I couldn't even, I was just like, nah. You know what I'm saying? He said, you ever thought about doing a clothing line? I was like, yeah, I want to do one. He's like, all right, cool. So after that, he introduced me to the Russian guy, the two Russian guys that was running Rockaware. And they gave me a clothing deal. based off of that. So I got my lick back. So I had a clothing line. It was called.
But you also learned a valuable lesson too, right?
To trademark.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I lost a lot. But the reality of it is, I look at it like this. My first album got bootlegged because somebody leaked it.
TM101?
TM101 got bootlegged 3 months before it was coming out. Now, mind you, I wouldn't have put Soul Survivor, a lot of those records on that album because I thought it was too big for me at the time.
Really?
But since it got leaked, they had already picked their own singles.
Oh,
you see what I'm saying?
The world picked the
singles. The world picked the singles. I didn't even have nothing to do with how it rolled out.
If it don't get leaked, you might pull them back.
Pull them back. I don't think I would have got a clothing deal or my brand be as big as it was if I didn't let them just go free range with
do your thing, of course.
You know what I'm saying? Because now that put me in markets that I would have never even thought of. But sometimes it's great just to let everybody eat.
Of course.
And you just be a part of it because that's the connection. That's when they locked in with you.
Of course.
I support Jeezy. I don't think I would be here if I didn't go about it the way that I did. And when you say being a Maverick, that's what it's about. It's about trailblazing. It's like there was no mold for me to fit to be here. I just had to go
make your
figure it out my way. And that's what I talk about a lot in the book. It's all about the paths you choose. But even if you fail, you have the data. And I'm the type of person, I ask my kids, what you fail at today? Because I want to build that up in them.
Of course.
I don't want to
lean into that.
Yeah.
Okay.
What you fail at today? What'd you learn? Oh, okay, cool. That's what's up. That's how I feel. Every time I fail, I've learned. So I look forward to the failure. When the success comes, I get ready for the next war.
Absolutely.
As simple as that.
And you're absolutely a Maverick. Appreciate you.
My God.
Thank you for doing this with me, brother.
Appreciate you for having me, brother.